Hi folks, my name's Charlotte Burke. I'm the CPD coordinator with Social Care Ireland. The reason I'm making this video is just to go through a guidance document to support social care workers to register with CORU. It's a really easy document to follow and it's all you need and has all the information in it to register. And just to be aware that most of us are called existing practitioners. So we're titled a Section 91. So unless you've come off a CORU approved course in 2024, the rest of us all are called existing practitioners Section 91s, and you must grandparent in if you want to use the title social care worker in the future, because it's now becoming a legally protected title. So this transitional period is open until the 30th of November. So if you get this application in prior to that date, that's perfectly fine, even if it hasn't been approved and it takes a number of months after that, that's okay. Once you get all these documents in, there's 7 documents that you need to get in. And one of them is having €100 on a bank card. Another one is your ID. Another one is a proof of address, a bill from the last, within the last 6 months. So some of those documents should be relatively easy to get your hands on. So I'm just going to go through this guidance document, which I will share as well. And it gives you everything that you need in order to register. So like I said, there's 7 things that you need. I'm just going to share my screen. And I'm just going to go back up to the top of this document. So the first piece of documentation that you need is a proof of employment. So proof of a professional practice. So this is really important because you need to have 2 out of 5 years experience in the sector. So you need to send this to your HR or your line manager. Please put down exactly what your job title is. CORU are well aware that we have a variety of titles, and that's okay. So if you put down, I had to put down here, I'm the CPD coordinator because my 2 out of 5 years is with Social Care Ireland. I also had to upload a job specification. That's the evidence that CORU need to say that you are doing the role of a social care worker. So that's important to consider. If you're called a social care worker and that's your current title, you don't need the job spec. But you do need to put down your main roles and responsibilities here. Again, just a brief summary in here in this box. Then you send it to HR or your line manager and they need to sign and stamp it if possible, if you have a stamp. Okay, so that's a really important document. That's the first document that CORU look for. When you're applying to CORU, it's an online system. So you go onto their homepage and you can see straight away social care workers registration. You tap into that. The suggestion is to use a personal email because if CORU send you some correspondence, it's something that you check regularly and just in case you leave your job or anything like that, because the database isn't connected to any other database. So whatever information you put in is all that CORU have. So you put in all your information, your personal information. The second thing that they look for is this document to say that you are working 2 out of the last 5 years in the sector. So it's an important document that you send to HR or your line manager. So another document is an e-vetting invitation form. So I suppose that's the bad news I have for you. If you've been through the vetting process before, CORU expect to do their own vetting. So this is just an invitation letter to give them approval to do that you've said, yes, that's okay to go ahead and do that. Again, it's a very simple form. It's just your name and your address and you sign it. So if you have an electronic signature, you can do it online. If not, you can print it and fill it out. Just be careful that they can read your handwriting. So that's another document. That's a fairly easy document to fill out. Then another one is having your statutory declaration. So this is an important document. You need to print this off. Okay. And it's a 3-page document that you are saying that you are fit and proper to practice. You need to bring this to a peace commissioner or a commissioner of oaths because they need to witness your signature. So basically they're saying, yes, this is Charlotte Burke and I've just witnessed her signature. So it's an important document that you have to bring to only a peace commissioner or a commissioner of oaths, which can usually be a solicitor. So you have to get to a printer and print that document off. So this document is important because you need to bring it to Commissioner of Oaths. You also need to bring your identification, which can be, your identification can be in a driver's license or your passport. If you're using your maiden name and a married name, you need to also have your marriage cert, just because there's been conflicts there in your signature. So whichever identification you're using, you need a photocopy of it. Then you need to bring the statutory declaration that you're fit and proper to practice. You need to print that. You also need then a thing called a parchment. So a parchment, all that is if you did a level 7 and above in social care, you need to bring that original document. When you graduated, it would have been handed to you. There would have been the whole ceremony. So that's the original. You need to bring that. So if you can't find it, you need to go back to the college and get a copy of it. And you can't do that. So you need that parchment and you need to get a photocopy of it. So you have a photocopy of it, you have your statutory declaration, and you have a photocopy of your identification. Those three things you need to bring to the Commissioner of Oaths or the Peace Commissioner. And the reason being is that it's an online system. So it just verifies that the copies are copies of originals and there's no fraudulent material there. So that's what you're doing there. So just a bit of context as to why you're doing that. It's just to prove that you are who you are. Same way when you go get your passport, a new passport, and you have to go to the Garda station and get the photos signed that it is your picture. So it's a similar sort of process that you're getting into. So I'll just recap that you need the statutory declaration that you're fit and proper to work. You need your identification and a photocopy, and you need your original parchment and a photocopy. You bring these three things to a Commissioner of Oaths or Peace Commissioner. They sign and stamp them. Be careful that it's legible and make sure it's the front of the photocopy so that they can see everything. And once you have that done, that's probably the hardest part. So there is an app, a scan app, that you can then scan everything back and email it to yourself and have it in a little folder on a laptop or a PC. And because it's an online system, so when the system says, please upload, you just go into that folder and you upload that relevant document. So it makes it just really easy. Because this system, when you're uploading these 7 pieces of information, it takes about an hour. So do give yourself the time where you're not going to be interrupted, and maybe take the phone off the hook so that you can just really concentrate on putting in all these documentations. And just to say, once you upload, and CORU come back and you get your approval, that could take a good few months. And once you get that, you only have to do this once. You only have to do the system once. Once you're in and you're approved and you have your CORU registration, you just pay an annual fee and you adhere to your code of professional conduct and ethics. So just important to kind of reiterate that this is a bureaucratic system that you're getting into, but you only have to upload all this information once, and once CORU approve it, then going forward, you just pay the fee and you adhere to your code. So I'm just going to show you there's 5 eligible routes. So depending on what qualification you have, depends on what route you pick. So I'm just going to talk about that now for a second. I'm going to go back to these guidance documents. This guidance document has everything in it. Okay. So we're going to go down to the different eligible routes. Okay. So you could have an approved qualification. So you come in here and you look at the website and you see, have I got social care workers approved qualifications? You scroll down here, you look at your parchment and say, oh, okay, is it there? All right. That's the first eligible route. Then the second, just go back, excuse me now, I have to drop it all the way back down here. Then the second eligible route is going to be the Schedule 3. So these are the older qualifications. I'm showing my age here. When I did a qualification, it was back in the late 90s, early 90s, you would have done a 3-year diploma, and then they changed that to a 3-year degree. So it allows for that. So again, we'll pop in here and I'll show you the Schedule 3. So there they are there. So the diploma in childcare, because we would have started off as a childcare diploma, which then changed into the social care worker diploma. So in its many different forms. So they're the older Schedule 3 qualifications. So again, your parchment might be one of those. So that's the second eligible route. So let's go back to this document. And we'll just try and scroll down here. And then, so that's the second one. Okay. Then the third one is going to be if you have a sufficiently relevant qualification. So I might pop that up here on the CORU webpage. And because as applications are come, this is the CORU webpage here that you can see. So it's really easy to navigate. Over on the right hand side, it says social care workers, visit site, pop in there, and there's how to register a social care worker, existing practitioners. So you tap in there. This then gives you, there's the 5 eligible routes there again. So we've just gone through the approved ones. We've gone through the Schedule 3, and here is the sufficiently relevant ones. So what's great here is as applications are going in, they started to furnish this list, and it's getting longer and longer, which is great. So if you find your parchment here, you don't need a transcript of modules or anything like that because it's already been approved. All you have to do is sign and stamp it with the commissioner votes, obviously a photocopy. You don't want to ruin your good parchment, and you upload that. So if you can find it here, it's under sufficiently relevant. Okay, so there's loads there, and all the different variations of social care that have been over the years. So that's the 3 eligible routes. The fourth one then is you may have a PhD and it might not be deemed relevant, or you may have lots of level 5s and level 6. So you don't have the level 7 and above. So you may ask your employer to fill out an employer's opinion of competence. Now this form is here. You need to send that to your employer. They have to be willing to fill it out. They're not legally obligated to fill it out. If they do fill it out, that's great. They send it back to you and you tick the box to say, I'm going for an employer's opinion of competence, and you upload this document when it asks for it. Then that's the fourth one. The fifth one is if your employer is not happy to fill out that, which they're not legally obligated, as I said, you can have an assessment done. So you still have to grandparent in, you still have to upload all your identifiable information, and you tick the box and say, I want an assessment done. CORU will come back to you to say if you're eligible for that route, and they will give you the different dates. So they have some dates for that. It's a 2-hour, 45-minute exam, and it's on the standards of proficiency and the code. So there's some information here that you can look at, and there's dates then of when the next exams are. It's 2 hours, and then the afternoon, the 45 minutes is kind of a multiple choice. And TUS in Shannon got that tender to do the assessment and stuff like that. So there's a guidance document there about that assessment. There's also an ebook on our webpage that you can avail of if there's some parts of the standards of proficiency or the code of professional conduct and ethics that you're kind of unsure about, just due to maybe the language. There's some lovely ebooks here that Dr. Denise Lyons and Dr. Teresa Brown co-edited, and they asked people from practice to look at the standard and write it like a chapter. So not all of it you're going to have to look at, but you might look at some and say, okay, I wonder what that looks like in practice. So you can skim down here. It's free. You can download it. That's just an overview of who wrote the chapters, but this gives you just a flavour of. So this is a chapter that I did on the Code of Professional Conduct and Ethics, which is chapter 7 or Standard of Proficiency 7. So that just gives you an idea, and it gives you some just background on that. So that's there as well as a really useful resource for if you do fall under the category of having to get an assessment done. So that's the 5 eligible routes. You have your Schedule 3, you've got your approved qualifications or your sufficiently relevant qualifications. They're obviously the easiest because your background is in social care. Then it may be the employer's opinion of competence or the assessment. You have to pick one of those routes. So that's just pick one of those 5. And that's just one of the 7 things that I'm talking about here. Okay, there's the guidance notes that I've talked about as well. We did the statutory declaration, the e-vetting, the proof of employment. You need €100 on your card, and you need a proof of address. So I'm just going to stop sharing, and I'm just going to recap on those 7 documents you need. First thing is proof of professional practice. That's a 2-page document that needs to go to HR or your line management. Please put down exactly what your title is, which is fine. If it's not a social care worker, you need to upload a job specification as well. So your proof of employment. Second thing is pick one out of the five eligible routes. The five eligible routes are Schedule 3, approved qualification, sufficiently relevant, an employer's opinion of competence, or an assessment. You need to pick one of those out of those five pathways. So you have the proof of employment, pick your eligible route, the statutory declaration that you're fit and proper to practice. There's an e-vetting invitation letter that CORU need in order to start the vetting process. You need your proof of address in the last 6 months, or some sort of bill. You also need €100 on your card, and you also need your identification. So your passport or your driver's license will be sufficient. If it's your maiden name, married name, you need your marriage cert as well. So they're the 7 things that you need, and some of them will be easy enough for you to find. So look, I hope that's helpful. I am going to put up the guidance document with this. I do more in-depth CPD information sessions as well. So just check out the Social Care Ireland webpage if you need a little bit more information around that, and especially around the Code of Professional Conduct and Ethics, and how we're obligated to align our practice with that after we register. So thank you for listening. Take care.